franchises and how we have them become a new modern mythology. That's like way Joseph Conrad to simplify it.
I love it.
There's something about our personal involvement with these stories, and I've been endlessly investigating this, like in my documentary and in my career, talking to Tolkien fans. We're always looking for that answer. Why are we so attached? So that's always a fascinating subject to dive into.
Excellent.
You know,
Love it.
that's just me.
Cool. No, that's great.
And congrats on a successful game night last night.
Thank you. It was good to see you. I'm glad you
Gosh,
came.
it was rock and roll last night.
Yeah.
There was a lot going on.
Did I bring my very good water bottle in?
I don't remember you having a water bottle.
Hello, hello. Hello, hello.
Kat,
There's your chat room.
Kat, could you steal a water?
Do you need one?
You know, I'd love one, thank you, but I'm usually just fine with a glass of LA's finest. I don't really care.
Thank you so much.
Not without making sardonic comments about the quality of the water, obviously. Yes. Thank you, love. Thank you. Yes, hello. Yes, I know, I got rid of it. Thank you kindly, Justin. My head's cut off until I sit down. It's all in the framing, isn't it? Man.
And our chat is up. All right.
So we have live chat going in front of us so we can see what people are saying.
Okay, cool.
This is
And feel free to pull out your phone and retweet or share and stuff when the video goes up. Okay. I do it all the time. I'm like, hold on, guys, I got to share.
now,
I can do it, yeah.
sometimes things will happen in the middle of the show, like people walk in, or people just spontaneously call live, and we'll hold the microphone and talk to them live.
Perfect.
If he has the ability, he'll take Skype and let them be full screen, and he'll switch between us and the Skype call coming in. It's like a bloody studio
Woohoo!
back there.
We're ready.
And now we are live.
Woohoo!
I have a funny feeling we've been live and
For a while.
The audio has been live for a long time, and he never told us that. Justin, pay no attention to that little man behind the curtain. My gosh. Welcome, everybody. It is Torn Tuesday.
Woohoo!
Once again, the OneRing.net, affectionately known as Torn. That's Torn. What are you doing? You're here with us live to talk about J.R.R. Tolkien, fantasy, science fiction, and all these amazing things with myself, Clifford, and our wonderful co-host, uncool rock star,
Hello, everyone.
Chelsea Schwartz, everybody.
Great to be here again. It's
Great to have you again.
I know. I love the chat's already active. People are really excited that Star Trek and Lord of the Rings, two of my favorite things.
I'm telling you, we always find an easy intersection between Star Wars and Lord of the Rings easily, because Legolas was played by Anthony Daniels in the Bakshi film, as well as Anthony Daniels being, 3PO. But finding a cross connection to Star Trek and Middle Earth, we might have to do 2 degrees of Kevin Bacon or something. We'll figure it out, but we'll get there. Huh? Leonard Nimoy, brilliant. Well, the most obvious one, yes, of course, the Ballad of Bilbo Baggins. Yes, that's right. Yeah. I know. I paid several $1,000s to license that song. It's like such a classic. I could not ignore that. There was like 2 things I knew I wanted to license: Led Zeppelin and Leonard Nimoy. Those are the 2 big songs I wanted to license. So, to tell you the truth, hey guys, welcome to the show. We have a very special guest star.
Bum, bum, bum.
Dun, 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 dun. Welcome to the live chat. I want to remind everybody, if you look at this caption floating over my head, it's got a phone number, and that's 530-64-FRODO. That is our
Frodo.
hotline. Yeah.
Frodo.
Frodo. Thank you, Aragorn. Soon to be King Elisar. Now, how about that? You guys call in, text us. You can come in live and be part of the show. And you're also joining with us on multiple platforms. We are broadcasting on Ustream, YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter Live, Periscope Live.
Yep.
Yo mama and your
Everywhere
daddy.
you can be live. We're
And
live.
your no panty granny.
Your
we
no
called-
panty granny?
We called
Did
you
you just
out.
really go there?
It's totally like when you do that list when you're a 3rd grader, you're like, your mama and your daddy and your no panty granny. That is what I used to say when I was a child.
I definitely never said that in 3rd grade.
You never?
No, definitely didn't. That was
My
not
God, come on, girl. All right, Chelsea, I love you, by the way. I love having you here. Chelsea's with us. We're going to tweet. We're going to tell the whole world. We have a very special guest with us. It's quite surprising, Chelsea, to have someone with such like a veteran's experience in acting, in franchises, with zombies, with aliens,
Seriously.
with an android named Lieutenant Commander Data, one of our favorite iconic characters. But this man also is one of those hardest working actors in town where people might not immediately go, oh wait, oh I know him, I've seen him in everything. You know, like there's this huge cabal of working actors who manage to do it and keep doing it, like with this utilitarian approach to just doing the work and getting it done, and it's fantastic. And I'm so happy to have this man with us.
Michael Welch is here, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
Michael Welch.
What an introduction. Thank you very much, sir. I am very happy to be here. Oh, and I see that I'm on there. There's my camera. Hi, everybody.
We're there. No,
Yeah.
credit where it's due. Credit where
Thank
it's
you,
due.
man. That's really that really means a lot. Yeah, I've been plugging away at this for 20 years now, so I always appreciate the kind words. So thank you. Good to be
Of
here.
course. Another connection, F. Murray Abraham, who was your villain in Star Trek Insurrection.
So good.
He was Salieri, was he not? And of course, Ian McKellen, who would eventually
Yes.
become Sir Ian McKellen, and he would eventually become Gandalf. He won the Tony Award for playing Salieri. The movie role did not go to Ian. It went to F. Murray Abraham for the film.
Gotcha. And then just as another little fun crossover thing, I did a play with Sir Ian
What?
and the
What?
Royal National Theatre when I was, I think, 11.
No.
Those were a good couple of first years.
That's amazing.
It was an Ibsen play called An Enemy of the People. It was at the Amundsen.
I know it.
And it's an incredible play. And they took the whole Royal National Theatre. They'd been doing it in London for, I think, a year and a half.
Wow.
Brought it over to the Amundsen, brought the whole cast, the whole crew, everybody but the two kids, and recast them. And I got to be one of his sons in the play.
Oh, superb.
Yeah, it was
Whoa.
I mean,
Okay.
literally, the credit listings for Michael is incredible. And not just the franchises, but you also had this small role in Frasier that made me so happy as well, because I'm a huge Frasier fan.
Oh, yeah.
it was like, but you've been doing this for so long.
Thank you. Yeah, well, Frasier was my first on-screen job. I think my first job ever was an American Savings Bank radio commercial. And Frasier, yeah, at the time, what got me into acting, I think more than anything else, is I was really good at impressions as a kid. That's sort of,
Okay.
I would just watch, TV and film and whatever all day, and any sort of, home videos of me as a kid. It's just me reciting all the stuff I've seen on TV. That's all it is. So I was able to, I don't know how I got in the room, but somehow I just did a better impression of young Niles as a 10-year-old than anybody else. So they shows in the country. It was on that stretch where it won like 9 Emmys in a row for Best Show. So once that was like on the resume, then it really opened up the doors of opportunity and got me into more and more rooms. And then you just sort of build it a brick at a time.
That's
from there.
amazing. At the time, at the height, at the zenith of Frasier,
Yeah.
the adage around town was, if you want to win an Emmy, don't go up against Frasier.
Right.
Nowadays, they say that exact same adage in reference to Alice and Janney.
Yes.
If you want to win an Oscar or an Emmy, don't go up against Alice and
Allison is
Janney. Period.
amazing.
That's like the new conventional wisdom.
I got to work on set with Allison on Mom. I was a regular on season 2 of Mom.
Really?
And there was an episode where she breaks down in an AA meeting because she just lost the love of her life.
Right.
And this episode actually, like the scene didn't really make the final cut. It's a glimpse of it. But when we filmed it, watching Allison go from 0 to 100 and just break down and cry with intense emotion, just action.
Ooh.
And then as soon as we yell cut, she's right back to just being bubbly and normal and wonderful. And I literally went, I quit. I will never be as good as you. I'm done now.
Yeah, dude, no,
amazing.
that is no joke. That is an incredible thing. And not a lot of actors have that kind of ability. I mean, I sort of have to kind of get in it and stay there and sort of be, if I'm going to be in an emotional scene, I sort of have to sulk my way into it.
Yeah.
I worked with, I was on a show, Joan of Arcadia, and Amber Tamblyn.
Oh, yes.
Show. She's
Yes.
another one that just, 0 to 100 like that. She was so good at it, you could set up specialty shots of just her left eye, and she would start out of focus, turn into it, one tear. I mean, it was just I don't know
amazing.
how people do that, but I guess it's a skill, and even some master actors have no ability to do that. So yeah, it's incredible to see it up close.
There are certain plays, like Ibsen, you mentioned,
Yeah.
being like certain playwrights that I would not dare go. I have a whole many decades background working on the Chicago stage myself before I came here to LA to do voice work and write and do other things. But God forbid, when you're up there in front of people live and the demands of certain text, like Death of a Salesman, I wouldn't go, and I mean, really ambitious, too much so for my acting chops. I'll leave that to the professionals. Me, I'd rather do the light comedy. I'd rather do the farce, the funny, you know,
Slapstick?
the Voltaire, and I'd much rather do Mercutio than I would rather Romeo. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't want to be that guy with that burden of holding the audience through all of that, I'd rather be the guy who comes out with a whip-smart little monologue, subtly letting loose the curtain that he might have a crush on Romeo, maybe, maybe not, and then all of a sudden you just go back and let the people do the rest of the mechanism, the mechanism of the play.
Yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, to bring the analogy to something like, say, I don't know, Breaking Bad, you'd rather be those two kind of quirky crackheads who would pop in and be fun for a little while, rather than like the Walter White who's got to carry the weight of the universe on his shoulders every single scene of every single episode. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Cool. Yeah. No, I dig that. I respect it. It's fun. I remember the first time I made the choice to cry on film, and I think in general a lot is made of that. I think if there happen to be any actors watching, the number one piece of advice I could give you for that, because a lot of actors have blockages emotionally, is once you release the weight of the pressure to do it, it becomes a lot easier. Once you say to yourself, I'm not attached to the results of whether or not physical water falls down my face. Right. Then it's like the blockage just kind of goes away, and then you can't stop crying because there's no pressure to do it. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's kind of like
it does.
When you're in a pool and you're reaching too hard for the little volleyball in there, you can't quite get it. But if you just sort of let it come to you, then it's a lot easier.
Look at Timothée Chalamet in that closing shot of Call Me By Your Name, where the camera just holds on the pain in his face. And you're like, where does a youngster like that have that kind of, earthly emotional experience to go to that? And he does it. And we're like, there you go, Oscars, please. Just throw the gold at him.
All the Oscars.
I know we're talking about Timothée Chalamet a lot because we talk about young Aragorn. We're talking about what Amazon is going to do with The Lord of the Rings. So let's talk about big franchises. Since we're here, Mr. Welch.
Let's do it, man.
Let's talk about some
get into it.
All right, I have to ask, because Twilight fans everywhere are probably tuning in, as well as
Stargate, Star Trek.
Z. One of my favorite
Z Nation,
my favorite death scene. One of my favorite death scenes from Mr. Michael Welch in Z Nation. I love that.
Yeah, man.
Tell us about that.
They let me go out with a bang, and I appreciated that. It's important for a show like that. Humphrey Bogart used to say he used to choose roles based on how cool the entrance was for the character. I think in modern apocalyptic genre films and TV shows, I feel like a lot of guys choose roles based on how cool the death is. It's like the exact opposite now. I remember I did a zombie movie with Ving Rhames back in the day, and that was the number one thing that he was the prerequisite for me to be in this movie, is that I gotta have a cool death. So I was very grateful to that. I don't have that kind of weight.
Oh yeah.
Not literally, like in the industry. Oh boy. Anyway, but yeah, it was really cool. And what's fun about a show like Z Nation is that by the time, or I guess any show like that, you get to season 2, everyone who works on the show as a zombie is a fan of it. That's why they're all there. Yeah. So yeah. It's just a cool experience on a different kind of level. You right now sort of understand the implications of it on a different level than someone I suppose just a hired gun and showing up. And it's cool to be around that kind of love at your workplace, if that makes sense.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know these people who are decimating me and pulling my guts out, and they're lovely people.
Yeah, that's right.
If anyone has to eat me, I'm glad it's you.
Exactly. Yep. No, but it was fun. It was great, and it was a cool death. Sorry, go ahead.
It's fun. I was just thinking that one of your friends would in the off take would probably be like, you've been eating onions, or something. A little joke, in between friends when the camera's not on, right? You're like,
that's hilarious.
It looks like Bethany says, Michael, you were awesome as a young Jack O'Neill.
Oh, thank you very much.
Hey, to the live audience, I want to remind everybody, yes, this is a live show. Here's Michael Welch. Here's Chelsea, and I'm Clifford, Broadway. The big red dog, as they call me, Clifford, Grande Perro Rojo. And if you want to bring in questions, come on, live on the chat. And we even have the hotline going, 530-64-FRODO.
Should I tweet out a link to this or something?
Yeah, you could definitely tweet it.
All right, let me figure that out while we continue.
Justin, when I checked Twitter a minute ago, the video wasn't up on there. Has that been fixed?
I'll tweet it out right now. Doing it.
There you go.
Nice. Okay. I want to talk about Trek because I'm a hardcore Trekkie.
All right.
Can we do that?
I can do this.
I mean, oh God, yeah, live long
And prosper.
which is followed by peace and long life
Yes.
as a response. You know, this is when the priest says something and everyone in the audience, everyone in the congregation says, and also with you.
Right.
This is what Trek we talk. Trek fans talk like this. When we were making Ringers, Lord of the Fans, we had a lot of debate among the producers and the director about whether Trekkies was an appropriate or an insulting title. And therefore, we had to sit around the campfire and talk for an hour about whether Ringers, as in Ringers, Ringer fans, would be an appropriate or offensive title. It actually
And
started
what was
from
the
there.
conclusion of this?
I don't know why there was confusion because
No, I said what was the conclusion?
oh, the conclusion? Well, obviously we went for Ringers, but then we added a colon and a subtitle, Lord of the Fans, because we really debated what was appropriate. But getting Leonard Nimoy onto Fringe, where he worked with John Noble, another amazing crossover between Lord of the Rings and Star Trek. But Gene Roddenberry had a sense of humanism, you know, religious zeal. Let's just say multiculturalism and humanism is so much at the heart of Trek, and there's so much wisdom within the dialogue, within the situations. Let's talk about Insurrection.
Insurrection, yeah.
Miss Donna Murphy. Miss Donna Murphy holds a special place in my heart because she has this romance with Patrick Stewart, and with Jean-Luc Picard watching, amazed, she freezes time, and the waterfall slows down, and it freezes almost motionless, and it's a lilting music comes in, it's gorgeous, and he looks at her astonished, and he says, "Are you doing that?" And her simple reply represents to me what is the deeper wisdom of Trek. She says, "There's nothing more difficult than perception." No other explanation is given about her powers, about what this is in the tech world. Are there nanites in her blood, blah, blah, blah. We don't even go down that rabbit hole the way other sci-fi writers try to do. The writers instead are trying to make a philosophical point. Trek succeeds at that so often in a way that Star Wars maybe does not, I would say. What do you think of that?
I think that's a very fair point. It's interesting. I mean, yeah, part of what's fun about that movie is that dynamic, that relationship, because she really challenges Picard's, whole way of operating in his life. I mean, the whole sort of point of that village, these were not indigenous people. These were people who are aware of this technology, had this technology, and chose to live this kind of life. And I also seem to recall her saying things to her like, you know, what can I find out there that I don't have right here? I mean, they're making a very Zen point.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, it really
almost
is.
like Winnie the Pooh, who's the least likely
Right,
place,
right.
but he is such a Zen master.
He really
Yeah.
is.
He
though.
really is. And she was a Zen master herself when she says to Jean-Luc Picard, and a man who fills his mind with technical things and military regulations and handling difficult, delicate nuance, to let it all go and say there's nothing more difficult than perception was one of the most, like, all is Maya type.
Absolutely.
I just love that.
And I love
Love that.
too her saying it took us hundreds of years to figure out it didn't have to take hundreds of years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So isn't that, out of all your franchises you've been in, is Trek maybe, one of your favorites?
Well, yeah, because I have a real appreciation for the history of that show and again, the impetus of why that show was created in the first place, which ultimately was to make, larger social points, larger points about humanity. They were trying to shed a different light on our society, but it was very clever the way they did it. They did it in a way that was accessible. Because if you just sort of came out directly and said a lot of that stuff that they were trying to say, it wouldn't have played. So, yeah, and that core of it has never gone away, I don't think, in any of the iterations and any of the different, whether it's the TV or the film or the next gen or the old stuff, the core, the soul of what Star Trek is has always remained, and that's why I think it still has such a special place in people's hearts this many decades later.
Yeah, definitely.
And Michael actually just did a Star Trek convention in Vegas a few weeks ago.
I did, yeah, and I did, yeah. It was my first just Trek convention, and
Oh,
I
cool.
was amazed at the response. I mean, honestly, I didn't think, because I looked at my schedule and it's like, wow, I'm here for, I work for one day, and it's like, I was in one movie 20 years ago. Like, are people gonna care? And yeah, people genuinely cared a lot. So it was a really beautiful thing to be a part of. I was telling my wife when I got back, boy, to be, how do I put this? To be filled with that much love, that much condensed love in a short amount of space and time. I mean, genuine love from people who were like, you were a part of this thing that means so much to me. Boy, it's a really special thing, and I wish everyone got to experience that. It's a very humbling thing. It's not like an ego boost, like, how great am I that everyone loves me so much? No, it's just you just feel such gratitude, and it really like I wish everyone could experience some level of that at some point in their life. It's a really lovely thing. It's like,
How
what it
would you
reminds me
say
of?
that's different from the Twilight crowd?
Well, I don't. That's a great question. Twilight was such a. I'm not comparing the two, saying that one is better
Right.
than the other.
Definitely not.
But
Every
at the-
every
Stop it.
fandom for its own. Justin wants to fight us on this, apparently.
But I would say at the time there was such excitement about it that there was kind of a bubbling over effect that happened. Is also great, but it was different from what I experienced in Vegas a couple weeks ago. That was something special. That was like,
It
'cause
also,
there was, I don't know,
it
'cause
also
there's some
feels
distance
like
from
for
it.
me with Twilight, I feel like there's been a cooling off period, whereas like
Yeah.
Trek is like almost one of the original fandoms. I was like, people have been Trekkies for so long, and that's continued for so many years, and there's so much content to pull from there, and like that community has grown together.
Indeed.
Yeah, and it's like a slow burn. It's like a slow and steady race. It's a marathon. Whereas Twilight was just such a and then we're sort of back to neutral again. You know what I
Right.
mean? So yeah, that little period was pretty wild to be a part of it, to say the least.
Pretty wild. You had a single character poster that was released as part of the pre-release publicity of the movie, didn't you? Did you?
Probably.
I saw one online there's one for Bella, there's one for what's-his-face, and there's another one for the guy from Harry Potter. And I'm joking, kids. And then there was literally all side characters, especially the popular kid, Mike, in school. You had and I was going to ask you, did you save one? Did you save one of those? No, I guess not.
I have a bunch of memorabilia and stuff.
Oh, cool.
But no, I don't have the poster.
I mean, that's cool. That's when a
It's
studio.
not framed above your bed. No,
Not-
Oh
just-
my God, it's so funny because when The Hobbit comes out, we got 13 different posters for all of these other great New Zealand actors who played all the different dwarves, and those are collector's items, and they're kind of fun when those things happen. I love that stuff.
Yeah, it's cool. I see a lot of that from Z Nation now too, of just people sending me pictures. Apparently, I have some action figure that's out there.
Awesome.
I don't know if there's some video game or what, but they don't. Nobody
Maybe
tells
a
you anything.
Funko Pop is coming.
Right. Yeah.
Don't you
find
just
out
sign
about
your
it later.
likeness away, and they don't tell you anything.
I
about it.
guess so. I must do that, apparently. Otherwise, I
my gosh.
have a good lawsuit on my hands. No, I'm just
You know what? We're going to tell the writers of Z Nation. Just got renewed for season 4, right? Season 4
believe so.
renewal
I think
for Z
5.
Nation.
Is
Season
it 4 or
5?
5? Yeah.
God bless it. Okay, we're going to tell the writers
The
of Z
photos
Nation.
that you're pulling
These
up
just
are
random
cracking me
photos
up.
popping
Oh
up.
no! Wait, that is live? Oh, that is so great.
I love that somebody just said Star Trek was a crock pot and Twilight was a microwave.
Okay,
That's
yeah,
funny.
I'll go with that. I love
Yeah.
that.
This is great.
There's the Twilight photo.
What? Oh yeah, that's Oh,
And there's Star Trek.
Yeah.
is that working with Jonathan Frakes?
Yeah.
What is it like
man.
working with Mr. Frakes?
All right. So, as a kid, this industry it can be cold, man. It can be brutal. And this was honest. Star Trek was my first film ever, so it was going to shape my perspective on everything. And the two people I primarily worked with were Jonathan Frakes and Brent Spiner. Two of just the greatest men you could ever meet. I mean, and they were so nurturing to me. They were so kind that it really, like, man, I had the bug certainly to like be an actor, but I think that really solidified my desire to do this for the rest of my life. Like they really, the experience was so great, it took the choice away from me, and I always try to hold on to that even through times of struggle, because listen, this is acting. I mean, it's a cyclical career, and sometimes,
True.
You know what I mean? Sometimes you're just like, man, I don't know how I'm gonna keep doing this, but that experience really, like, it set the stage for me to feel good about pursuing a career out of this, as opposed to just something fun that I was doing as a kid, you know. But yeah, so Frakes in particular, man. Gosh, I don't even know if I've had a chance to talk to him since then, but I would love to be able to say to him, like, thank you.
He's one of the busiest directors in town.
Yeah.
Working on all these TV shows.
Well, look into the camera right now and thank him. Maybe he'll watch this one day.
Yeah.
You watching, Johnny? Thank you, man. Seriously, you set me up to win in a way that I don't think any other director could have at that time. So thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. But how about the idea of an actor taking a very successful acting career and then switching into directing, like changing lanes?
Yeah.
And he seems to have been a good example of one of those famous TV actors who quite comfortably now is like shooting episodes of Scandal and NCIS, and he's directing episodes of some of the biggest shows on the air. So he's a busy man, and that's kind of cool, though.
What's that?
Justin wants to know if he'd be a good
Yeah,
director
for the
Lord
new
of the Rings.
Amazon
Of course.
show.
Oh, that's a great call. Yeah, for the new Amazon show, Frakes. I'm gonna for whatever it's worth, I say Jonathan Frakes should direct the next $1 billion Lord of the Rings project.
I agree. He should be one of quite a few directors. He's got the chops. He knows how to handle a big franchise.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And is Brent Spiner as charming and funny and musical as everyone knows he is?
More. Everything and more. Yeah. And
Yeah.
still, I mean, I saw him on stage in Vegas a couple weekends ago, and he's just he's as lively as he's ever been. He's just that guy. You know, some people just have that charisma and that energy, and
Yeah.
he's just one of those dudes, man.
He put out a
That's
pop
awesome.
album once.
Really?
Yeah, pop standards. And I mean like Cole Porter, old
Wow.
Broadway standards.
I wonder
He
if that's
put
on
out-
Spotify.
And it was like the smoky black and white photography on the cover was
That
like
is amazing.
a recreation of Casablanca. And he had this whole, Bogart thing going on with his hat. And it was like yellow eyes over the rest of it being black and white. And the name of the album was Old Yellow Eyes Is Back. So he was doing Frank Sinatra
I was
stuff.
going to say,
and-
poking
yeah.
at old blue eyes.
Yeah, he was
Old
just really
Yellow
good.
Eyes. I
He's
love
really clever.
Yeah.
He's very good. I like him.
Jack Cal in the chat room says, I admit I enjoyed Twilight more than Harry Potter.
There
Ooh,
you
somebody
go.
just admits they like Twilight more than Harry Potter. Them fighting words.
Whoa. You know what? Hey, there's room for all fandoms.
There is room for all
There's
fandoms.
so much room for all fandoms.
Justin's asking about fandom competitions, our views on this.
That's interesting. I mean, is any of it really serious? I mean, I don't know.
The only one that's ever been serious is between DC and Marvel fans. They love to
Right.
bitch at each other.
Okay.
Otherwise, I don't know if it's been any worse. What do you think, Chelsea?
I mean, I've definitely seen some people go into it online between fandoms and just people not getting it and trolling other fandoms, especially as we get more diversity and inclusion on TV. I don't know. It's an interesting time to be a nerd right now.
Okay, now that this is interesting. We can take this conversation anywhere you guys want. But
Absolutely, go for it.
That's how we do this show.
okay,
Yeah.
great. So, what is your perspective on this? On taking these old things that exist with characters that were written a certain way at the time, and I don't know, changing the race or gender or
Revamping, rebooting with a new.
Yeah, because people get so mad about this stuff, and I don't fully understand that. So I'm just curious, like, is there
You
something
don't understand
I'm
why people
missing?
get so passionately mad?
Yeah, like to the point where you're chasing people off of the internet because they're being harassed so
Yeah,
much.
that's a little too
Ah,
much.
well, now we're getting into the realm of what happened to Kelly Marie Tran, and I'm glad you brought this up to this point because I wanted to say, raise your hand if you read her open letter in the New York Times. Kelly Marie Tran beautifully and rather eloquently explained how she grew up as a Vietnamese girl and feeling ashamed of being a Vietnamese girl, of some beauty and some talent, and yet, not wanting to be laughed at. And she admitted, I stopped speaking my native tongue when I was 17 entirely in favor of English so that kids in school wouldn't pester me or bother me. Or maybe she was 7. But it's just a really eloquent thing. But the way that the Star Wars fans behaved towards her and the tactics used, was really unfortunate.
There's been a lot of unfortunate things going on. I mean, Scarlett Johansson's been attacked so much lately for getting roles that everyone feels should not go to her. And whether you share that opinion or not, I have a lot of different points of views in this. There's the point of view where I'm really happy to see more diversity and inclusion happening in film and TV. I was like, but then I feel like they're not focusing on talent. And I feel like they literally go, oh, we have to have this card and this card and this, and they just check it off, and it's whoever they can get, and then we're not getting quality. I was like, so where I see people getting heated and stuff, and I've gotten heated, not to the point that I've chased anybody or called names, but like they said they were gonna redo Labyrinth, and I was like, Labyrinth is my entire life. Like that was my childhood. David Bowie do not make a new Jareth. I will kill you. Like, and then like I read, oh, it's a continuation. They're not trying to redo Labyrinth, and it cools me down a little bit. Like, yeah, I'm tired of reboots. I'm okay with the reboots when they're done well.
Right.
I go back and forth on this.
I got you. Okay, so
We're looking at a reboot of Middle Earth. This is why the topic of conversation that you just mentioned, Michael, comes up so often. Because we're talking about introducing diversity into what has always been a rather porcelain, white, European, Eurocentric world of Middle Earth, the way it's been represented. So we're all on the tip of this conversation, and I do appreciate you bringing it up.
And also, while we're having this conversation, our chat room's exploding of people being like, Twilight better than Potter. Like, what?
They're still fighting over that. What? Oh my gosh, you guys are awesome. We love that you're here with us, but keep up with me now. Coffee and Pie, oh my. That's a reference to Brick. Watch that movie, it's brilliant. Okay?
Yeah, Brick's great.
Yeah, before he did The Last Jedi, he was directing other movies, right? Brick, Looper, amazing thing. Yeah, I love the man, Rian Johnson.
There was other
ladies and
movies
gentlemen.
before Star Wars?
Yes, that's right, he did. He had a bloody curriculum vitae before Star Wars. But anyways, keep up with me now, kids. Getting back to this conversation before we're derailed
I also want to
entirely.
apologize. I lost my voice yesterday, and it's barely holding on, so you're going to hear me croak at various points
You
tonight.
did. You sound rather coquettish, rather smoky.
Just going to talk at a lower range and be sexy like Phoebe and Smelly Cat.
Oh my God, you're so funny. So what's on the table? The conversation, and it's still open. We want some of your thoughts, please, from the live chat. How do we feel about familiar cultural stories all of a sudden being changed or revised or fiddled with as it becomes a new adaptation or a new version? Like Idris Elba now most likely becoming the new Bond, which I'm all for. I'm totally for Idris Elba, but how could that possibly work with the exact same character the way it was written and created? Well, it's something different.
Yeah, so here's my perspective as someone from within the entertainment industry. So it is a business like anything else, and they are in the business of making money, and more the studios and whoever invests big money into films are more reluctant to do so unless there is the assurance of a built-in audience. So where are you going to find a built-in audience? It's from things that people are fans of, from stories, from old comic books, from things that perhaps were written in a different cultural context. And we are also at a time when it's become more and more clear that representation matters. I mean, it's very important for all sorts of reasons. So how do you reconcile these two things? How do you invest heavy money into something that has a built-in audience while also trying to infuse some more representation for the sake of our society? And unfortunately, I think that's where cross our wires sometimes, and you're going to get some of that. So
Absolutely.
So my perspective is, what's the greater overall value? Is it to our society as a whole, or to your particular sensibilities as a fan of this thing, having a certain expectation that maybe isn't fully met now? Does that make sense at all? It's just I try to, but again, this is coming from someone who is not. I'm just trying to see a situation where they're like, we're going to reboot something. I don't know. We're gonna do Rugrats again, but we're gonna make them black babies this time. It's just okay. So it's just different. I guess I just don't understand why different is bad necessarily. You know what I'm saying? That's my perspective.
I think the word different is bad in terms of fandoms. It's more of just taking something that you loved in childhood and it just being different and you not wanting change, because most people resist change. That's literally just where it comes from.
Yeah.
Every day. I'm still pissed off at what Cartoon Network is doing to the Thundercats. I'm one of those very unhappy fans that does not like the fact that a hard-lined action adventure series has been turned into, play school. And the character redesigns are really, they're going for, well, it's going to be more like Chowder. It's going to be funny and wacky, cow and chicken.
Yes.
It's going to be great fun, lots of slapstick, but there's not going to be hard, violent fights or tension or, it's just different. So why is different bad? Because we consume popular culture in certain ways. It kind of comes back to that.
Yeah.
I want to consume my Thundercats the way I used to. Not the new one, which I think looks awful. But then again, I should shut up because I'm just one angry white guy on the internet. Like, who needs that anymore?
I love what Catherine just said too. She's like, I'm 100% for diversity. However, Lord of the Rings is supposed to be English folklore.
I know.
You wouldn't cast Chris Hemsworth to play a character from Wakanda's past.
Right, and this is
point.
where it gets complicated, because that's an excellent point. And and the James Bond.
that.
I mean, this stuff is complicated. So I think that's why it's important.
This is something really recent that I even thought of. So the Christopher Robin movie that just came out. Did you see it?
I did see it.
Okay,
I
so
did see it. It was really maudlin.
The office scene in the luggage company that he works for.
Yeah.
There was one black employee and one female employee, and the female employee was not a secretary. And for the time period of when that was supposed to be, which was like 40s-ish, I was like, this is really shocking. And I get why Disney included it. I was just like, but I don't know if I would have seen that. And if that was something that existed, that's awesome that it's being represented now. I was like, but that's something I think about when I watch these movies too, is that actually happening, or did you do that because it was just diversity?
Right. Yeah.
Well, Tolkien has had the charge of racism placed against him for many, many, many decades. In fact, there's a phenomenon where people are like always pointing out the difference between white and black as the duality in a simplified form between good and evil, as if that construct is held within the cultural people and the political and cultural nations that are there in Middle-earth. That all the villains are perhaps swayed by darkness because they're dark or dark-complected. This is something I wrote about in a really lengthy essay for the OneRing.net a number of years ago, and you have to look at Middle-earth as English folklore, as a interested in Middle-earth being a nice representation of a mythology for England.
Yes.
Because he thought King Arthur was too French.
Yes.
Way too French. Le Mort d'Arthur was like not British enough. He wanted something, as he said, in his own words, tied to the soil, to the language, and tied to the soil of Britain. So
And if you also get into the linguistics of it, the languages he created were based on very specific languages in Europe.
Yes.
I was like, and if you
That's true.
if you place those to where they actually were from, I was like, then you're going to have English folklore, and you're going to have orcs in Germany and things like that coming from those lands, because that's where the linguistic inspiration came from.
As a matter of fact, we talked about that at Comic-Con, and a very adroit button on this point was made by Kelly Rice, who is one of our staff on the OneRing.net, and she said back in the Middle Ages, it wasn't race that became, or ethnicity that became a difficult problem for people moving across the continents of Northern Africa into Europe and across the Mediterranean area. It was language. It was differences in language that became a crisis for trade agriculture, settlements, the migration of people. And when you boil it down to that, Tolkien also is wise enough to have used those elements of differences between people as part of what creates conflict between nations. It's not just about race.
Right.
But if you put the map of Middle-earth over England, and it goes further and further to the east and to the south, and the different nations that are represented on that map become darker complected people, different cultures. It is not to say that they're all enemies. It's just that that's the stage where most of his linguistic interest was set. That's all it is. It isn't an observation of race. When German publishers came after Tolkien and said, you need to prove your Aryan heritage, he wrote the nastiest letter to his publisher and said, could you send this off to them? Tell them, as a Catholic, he did not say this. He didn't say, F you, but he came as close as he could, intelligently saying, some of my best and most talented friends and artists are Jewish. I cannot stand that pernicious, those are his words, the pernicious race doctrine of the way that Nazi nationalists are operating. So screw you. I don't need to prove my last name. I don't need to prove my heritage to you. And you can just burn the books if you don't want to sell them. His attitude was like that. So
Yeah.
I don't believe that Mr. Tolkien is ever going to really, be charged successfully with this, spurious claim that he was a racist. Although the side note is that all the heavy, dark Nordic metal bands who are very Aryan nation type, they're totally adapting Tolkien and appropriating characters and places and sword and sorcery as part of their weird musical mythos of their Aryan nation. And I'm sure that Tolkien would be very unhappy with that, just for the record, kids. Now that we've said that, I'm done. I'm done.
Which I don't know if you knew that Tolkien was a linguistics professor and before writing these books and all of that stuff.
No, it makes
It's a fun
sense,
fact
though.
for you for a noob.
It was. I mean, hey, yeah, he was. He was a professor of philology and
Yes.
Oh.
Old English, Middle English before he was a writer, and he just
So
entertained
even
himself
the
on the side.
languages in Middle Earth, like Elvish, was based on
yeah.
English. It says there was actually Elvish, and then there was Old Elvish, the way that we have Old English.
That's awesome. I'm going to remember that fact, and then as soon as it comes up on Jeopardy, I'm going to scream it.
Deep cuts on the OneRing.net. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Mr. Welch. We're getting.
When did you get into Lord of the Rings? When did you see the movies? Did you read Hobbit necessarily?
Oh yeah, no, I told Chelsea ahead of time. I know very little about Lord of the Rings. I apologize, but no, I mean I saw the movies when they came out at the time, and I mean they're amazing. But that's yeah. That's about the
It's
extent
a
of it
good
for me.
entryway for most people into the entire world that was created. Those movies, I remember so many people in my college that just discovered Tolkien from seeing those movies and thought they were incredible. The reason I learned about all the linguistic stuff is because I took linguistics of Middle Earth in college that was offered at University of Texas, Austin. And a lot of people that saw the movies.
Of course, that was offered in Austin.
Yeah. Keep
Love
Austin
you.
weird, But
Oh yeah, I met Stephanie Meyer, hung out with her a few times. Yeah, super cool.
Any issues with the adaptation versus her book?
Justin's asking about Stephanie Myers and the adaptation from the book versus the movie for people that can't hear Justin in the background.
That's right. Miss Stephanie Meyer, for those who are not paying attention,
Wrote
the
Twilight.
author of Twilight books. Thank you. Gosh. Gosh.
Gosh.
Yeah,
I mean Napoleon Dynamite.
Well, my experience with those movies in general was kind of isolated to my universe, which was my little group of high school kids, because we were not involved in anything else. We were our own thing. We didn't know about the werewolves or the vampires or anything. So any sort of questions I had for Stephanie had to do with, I told her at the time, I want to make sure we are doing this to your liking, if we are fulfilling your vision of what you think this group is supposed to be, what it's supposed to represent. I certainly have my ideas. And she was good with what we did. I mean, it's not that, we were there to add some levity to,
Yeah.
Otherwise what was a pretty sort of heavy kind of story. So, and represent a certain element. I felt I was there to represent a certain element of the high school experience. I wanted people to watch it and go like, oh yeah, that guy. I know that guy, and just sort of the whole thing of the, you know, the unrequited love and all that. It's something I'm, through the context of high school, you know, it's something I certainly had my share of experiences with. So it was just a matter of kind of tapping into that and just having fun and seeming like a real group of friends. There's nothing to me, it's one of my pet peeves in movies is fake fun. When it's like, look, we're friends, guys, we're having fun, right? You know, so I wanted it, I really, I hate
be authentic.
that. I want it to be authentic. I want it to feel like you're watching this a real group. And I think for the first film in particular, you know, we did that. Another one of my pet peeves is when there's a close-up of people looking at photos, and then they like touch the face of the person on the photo they're looking at. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I hate that in movies too.
No one does that anymore, do they?
I don't
it's kind of a
think
random
they're
option.
Caressing
that.
the photo?
Yeah, nobody does that in life. It's just in movies because as an actor you think you got to do something.
You've never caressed a photo? Is that just me? No?
You
No.
caress.
Oh my gosh. You guys are so, you know, I would have thought that you were an excellent foil to the other bad boy characters that took Bella's interest. And the fact that you took such an interest in Bella, I thought was very useful to the story, that we're getting a sense that she's not interested in, you know, cute, vanilla white guys. She's interested in bad boys. Then we wouldn't have known that except for, you know, these great overtures that you make to her. And that's a very early warning that you gave her, too, that line of dialogue you have. You know, he looks at you like you're something to eat. You know, he's looking at you as if you're something on a plate. Right. You know, and in the high school experience, a good friend would come up to the new girl or the new kid in school and say, by the way, you know, you notice the predatory looks you're getting from these bozos? That's something a good friend would do.
You're fresh meat.
Yeah, but it's nice to be a foil to the bad boy, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
What it's like to be the only human surrounded by mythical creatures.
Right.
That's
Justin wants to know what it's like to be the only human surrounded by mythical creatures.
I was, but again, I was unaware of the mythical elements within the story. He literally was just a guy in high school who liked Kristen Stewart. Like that was my whole thing. And then in the second movie,
Did you read the books?
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, after I like got the part, yeah. I mean, I figured it was important to, you know, get a sense of what we were doing.
Okay.
But yeah, but it was isolated what we did. I mean, I knew what my role was, and I just stuck to that. But yeah, it's a great question. You know what his reaction would have been. I have no idea.
I wanted to tell the writers of Z Nation because, you know, they did get renewed. Flashbacks, okay?
Yeah.
Flashbacks, get him back on the show right now. Right? Please. But they did it on Lost. Like years
that's
later,
true.
someone would come and like reappear.
And
like,
they
oh,
did
I
that
haven't seen
once
them.
upon a time too, but I was like basically same team.
Hello, you are very capable writers in the writers' room. You're very capable of using a familiar trope like a bloody flashback. So do it.
We did. There was
about
one flashback. It was the episode Day One, where it went back to Day One of the Apocalypse, and you sort of were introduced to all the characters again. So I was able to pop back for that. But yeah,
That's nice.
since then.
Well, speaking of projects and Michael working on things, Michael has a movie coming out on September 1st on Lifetime.
Oh wow, that soon? Oh, that's cool.
Okay, so we first aired on the Lifetime Movie Network, and apparently this is how it works: is they like audition your film on the Lifetime Movie Network, and if it does well enough, you graduate to Lifetime. So now on
I
September 1st,
didn't even realize that there was a Lifetime Movie
That's
Network
right.
and Lifetime.
Okay.
Oh yes, that Lifetime movie is like a double A. You know what I mean? And then you
Okay.
work your way up to the majors.
Okay.
So we made it. We made it
Congrats.
to Lifetime. September 1st. It's called I'll Be Watching, and it's based on a series of books. So if enough people watch, I don't know. Maybe we make more movies. Who knows? I don't know.
That sounds awesome. If Peter Jackson goes back to making zombie movies,
Okay. Put Michael's name right in there.
Michael, you're there. Because, you know, he started way before Lord of the Rings. We were scared of him because he was doing gross out zombie movies like Dead Alive and like Meet the Feebles, which is not a zombie movie, but yeah, he was doing some amazing splatterfest. There's a bit with a lawnmower where he holds a lawnmower in front of him, and like the blood, like it was just unbelievable amounts of gallons and gallons of special effects stuff all over the set. It was insane. And then he got the job to direct The Lord of the Rings, and we were all terrified. What is he going to do
Lord of the Rings, the horror film.
with our favorite book? Yeah, those were the days.
What I want to know is, what are your fandoms?
Well,
Yeah.
I will say right now. So I have an 8-month-old girl at home, a baby.
Oh, wow.
I have a baby.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow,
Yes.
that's great.
There was a crowd here. That was when they would applause. Thank you. So I will say that I've definitely my consumption as a fan has gone down significantly.
Yeah.
I watch Moana about 1,000 times a day.
Do you like Moana?
I actually love it a lot.
Oh, right. We were going to talk about Moana.
Oh yeah, our Twitter
Man,
thread.
Okay, so real quick, since we do a lot of this on this show,
Yes.
apparently, which I love.
Let's do it.
Man, when she gives that lava monster her heart back,
Oh my
it
God.
chokes me up every single time because she says to her, you know, they stole the heart from inside you, but
Yep.
it does not define you. This
Yep.
is not who you are. I know who you are, you know, and it's just like, man, because it make it.
I have chills
and
right
it-
now. You just saying it.
because
Like,
it makes me like think about, you know, the just I mean, again, I don't know how deep we want to get, but the broken souls of our world going, man,
Yes.
how many people out there are you know, victims of circumstance in their life that were broken, whose hearts were stolen from inside them, and I just want to tell them that this does not define you, man. This is not who you are.
There's
It's
so
beautiful.
many amazing and beautiful moments in every Disney film like
know.
that too, and this is why I'm a giant Disney nerd.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So so great. So to get back on that, thank you. Got me back on track.
Yeah.
We're definitely Disney nerds in our household. And then, you know,
And-
honestly,
and speaking of defining moments, though, the short too that's before Moana, Lava,
oh, yeah, beautiful.
I cry every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
The other things you seem. Are you reading something?
I'm just looking at some of the live chatters to see.
A lot of people talking about missing Once Upon a Time from my brief mention of it, and then talking about the new DuckTales series. So everyone tells me the new DuckTales series is really good. I won't watch it because of the animation style. So
Really?
there's a different one for you. I don't like how they're drawing the faces of Huey, Dewey, and Louie. It's too square, and I'm just like, it bothers me. I won't watch it.
You know, character design is one. As an animation fan, I will admit this out loud. I'm instantly attracted to some character designs, everything that Studio Ghibli has ever done. And there's some character designs, like One Punch, which are just so stupid and obnoxious, I don't want to watch. But I can withstand something that is relentlessly aggro, like Dragon Ball Z. I can totally withstand that.
What did you just throw out, Justin?
Yeah. Oh, and that. Oh, gosh, no, please. That's the Thundercats. That's the new design.
Oh, that's the new one?
That is Lion-O,
Ew.
Panthro, Tigra, and there he is squishing Mum-Ra on the left. I hate that. It is so awful. You know, thank you for vindicating me a tiny little bit, Chelsea.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
You know?
It looked like Steven Universe or something. I was like, what is happening right now?
That's what they did to Thundercats.
Not to get away from you though. We were
No,
back
no,
to
we got
you're a
back-
Disney fan, and we were
Back
going
to
into
Disney.
another point.
Yes.
Yeah, so if we're talking about the other things that I nerd out about, I love Netflix documentaries. I just watched that one, Wild Wild Country,
Yeah.
about that guru who moved into that
Yep.
small Oregon town and just took over the joint. And I mean, it's just, I find that stuff so fascinating.
My
and
friends
then-
from
yeah.
Oregon were telling me about that, sorry. That
Oh, it's
they-
so good.
Literally, they're like, yeah, we lived through that. My family can
Oh,
tell you
they were
real
there.
stories. Yeah.
Wow.
When you talk to someone who lived near that area where that stuff went down, whoa.
It's
Weird.
wild because even watching it, you go, how did I not know about this before? This seemed like, was it like that big a deal in the country at the time? Because I mean, I don't think it was in the 80s, so I was I think I wasn't born yet, but man, it just seemed like, I'm surprised that's not a part of our cultural zeitgeist more until this film came out.
Not as much as what happened at the Branch Davidian complex
Right,
in
yeah.
Waco, Texas.
Probably because of the end.
I
The
remember
end
that
was a
one.
the
little,
tragedy of the end. Scene.
yes,
Yeah.
that must be it.
It's very weird stuff. Strange days. But yeah, Netflix documentaries
Anyway,
are awesome.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
and then honestly, for me, I don't know if this is gonna play with this crowd, but I'm a big sports fan.
Oh yeah.
I grew up in LA, so it's all
I'm the
Lakers,
one that's
Dodgers.
like, what is a sport?
What is a sport?
I was actually supposed to
Sorry.
go to my first Dodger game tonight, and I'm not going, but I was
great.
supposed to go tonight.
I love going to the Dodgers game.
I've always wanted to go. I love baseball stadiums, and I like watching baseball live.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't like watching on TV. I don't understand why people watch sports on TV.
Understood.
But like the actual getting in there, like I'll go to the soccer stadium, not for our LA team. That's not soccer. I don't like the Galaxy.
Oh yeah, well no, I have to ask about Dodgers fans
Yeah.
because you guys know that we're broadcasting live from Los Angeles, and we're here at Scum and Villainy Cantina, right on Hollywood Boulevard, the most
The best
wonderful
nerd
place.
bar ever.
It is the best nerd bar in the universe. Now, why do Dodgers fans, if they claim to have blue blood in their veins, why do they always leave Dodger Stadium at the bottom of the fourth inning? Why do they always
That's a
leave
thing?
and not watch the rest of the bloody game? Everybody, only the visiting team players or their families for the visiting team will stay and bother to watch. All the Angelinos are like, we're done, we're bored, I had my Dodger dog, it's the fourth inning, and it's like, and then they'll check their phone later to see who won the game. Explain this to me, Dodgers fans, why?
Because
Less interesting than the Marvel movie.
Thank you. It's less interesting than a Marvel movie.
Watching a
Here's-
Dodgers game is less interesting than a Marvel movie. That's why they
funny.
leave.
Because you have to wait for the end of the credits and whatnot to see the post credits and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, you do have to wait for the coda.
I mean, my only guess, having not gone, is maybe people could predict where the game is going by the fourth inning.
I love
I-
being there. I just love being at Dodger Stadium so much. I'm always energized when I'm there. I love live baseball. I love all kinds of live sports. But to be there and say, this is my home team, I'm not even going to support them because traffic, well,
Yeah.
take the bloody train.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. I agree with you completely, but yeah, traffic in this town is that traumatizing to
Well,
people.
and
They
that's
will
literally that's why I'm not going to the game
I'm
tonight. Because
telling
by
you.
the time I leave here, I would miss the game.
It determines like when you set your meetings. It shapes every aspect of our lives.
Yes.
That's why on the Californians on SNL, they're always talking about the routes they're taking
Yep.
because that's what we do here.
That is true. That is so true.
Which somebody just gave a great comment for you, Michael. They said that they want you to be in the new Lord of the Rings Amazon series because you're one cool dude.
Oh, thank
Totally
you.
cool. Actually, he would be one of the greatest Rohirrim. You're right. He would be a great. I can see Michael playing a ranger of
Or
the
an
north,
ally of
an
Aragorn.
ally of young Aragorn, or someone in the Rohirrim. How are your equestrian skills, sir?
Oh, I can be good at whatever you need.
I like that.
We're gonna say Amazon
Every actor
Studios.
gives for everything.
He knows how to ride a horse. Let's just say that. Okay, we'll start.
No, I do. I'll be fine.
What race do you identify with most? Dwarves, elves?
Yeah, here now Justin is in the background and no one can hear him. What race in the fantasy world of Middle Earth would you most like to be? Like an elf, a dwarf, a hobbit, a wizard, a human, an orc?
Did you say Hobbit yet?
I did say hobbit.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I like the dwarves. I've always been. I've never been attracted to. Man, how do I put this? I.
So curious where this is going
Okay,
right
hold
now.
on. But no, but dwarves seem to have an inherent, disadvantage to a degree in that universe, and I've never, like, for instance, I mentioned Rugrats earlier. Okay, Tommy was not my favorite character. Chucky was my favorite because Chucky was the number 2 guy. He had something to overcome. He didn't show up like perfect already, and I'm drawn to that. My favorite number has always been the number 2, even as a kid, and I didn't really analyze why.
I'm
I think
always more drawn to the B characters and stuff like that too. I think there's a lot of people that identify more with those. I like in Disney films, I identify a lot with these sarcastic, strong-willed characters.
Right. Yeah. No, it's always it's someone I identify with the people who have something to overcome. You know, some sort of whatever it may be. So yeah, that's
Dwarves, a lost.
So you think you would be a dwarf if you could choose a race? Is that where this was going?
Yeah, I think so. That was the question, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
I would say so. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, the dwarves are the nomadic people who've lost their nation, lost their mountain.
That doesn't sound fun.
And but there's in the Hobbit we get one of the big complaints about the Hobbit trilogy was that there was less Bilbo and much more Thorin and about his family and his destiny. But this is interesting because Tolkien does put that in there, that they're trying to reestablish a family line of, for a nation of people who were in exile. And they felt like they'd lost their home, and they just wanted to get their home back. And that's why Bilbo said, you haven't got one, a home. And I do. I've got the nicest home that I want to go back to. But I'll help you. I'll bloody help you because you don't have a home. And I'm like, that stuff is so universal and so cool.
Yeah.
I just totally dig that.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I don't know why fans complained that much. Having a lot of Thorin in the Hobbit movies wasn't really that bad. I mean, I thought it was really...
I liked it.
Richard Armitage is awesome.
Yeah.
But, yeah, being a dwarf is a great choice.
Okay,
It's
good.
a great choice.
Thank you.
I support that.
As somebody reminded us, dwarves are very dangerous over short distances.
Yes.
Great. Right, there you go.
We dwarves are natural sprinters.
Yes. Natural. Absolutely.
Yes. Natural
I think I just like the accent.
Personally, I'm a hobbit.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yes.
I'm just always hungry. All right, so Justin wants to know, and we talked a little bit about this before we came into it, what the process is. Let's say if we wanted Michael to be in the Lord of the Rings Amazon series, how do we get you in this series? How do you get yourself into the series?
Well, we'll start with a bit of groundwork, laying the fact that Amazon is spending an unbelievable $1 billion, including the licensing and the production costs, for this series, with a 5-season commitment. And it is going to be the biggest thing to go back to Middle-earth again, and yet they're not retelling The Lord of the Rings over again. They're going to explore other corners of this world. So do you have your agent build a relationship with the studio, or do you have your agent start making phone calls to the
Or do you bypass
production
your agent
office?
altogether?
Or do you show up at the door like Sean Young, dressed in a Catwoman costume and say, hire
Look
me?
at me.
Yeah. The reason those stories are so famous is that they are the exception
know the one.
and not the rule.
Okay,
That is
okay.
not how things
That
work.
sounds like he's just not that into you. Did you see that movie?
Right.
He's part of the exception. You're the rule.
Right, exactly. No, to answer your question, I don't know. There are, listen, a project like that, everybody and their mother and their pantyless grandmas are going to.
Thank you.
That was on the show,
That was a
right?
good
I didn't just go
callback.
back to something that was
Everyone,
not on the
I
show.
did. We started the show with
Okay.
your mama
Great.
and your daddy and your no panty granny.
Great,
That's
okay.
exactly
That was
how
a
we
great
started the show.
callback. It was great.
And I'm glad to be consistent with that. God bless.
So
I like this. Somebody said, "Can you be half hobbit, half elf?" That's kind of fun. A little
No.
sexy.
yeah, excellent.
No, wait, you're not for diversity over here?
That's hilarious. What? Oh no! Come on.
I thought you said no as the answer to that.
I did say no, but instinctually.
Does someone of your caliber have your resume speak for yourself, or do you go to a big audition, or that's what I'm.
No, I hear what you're saying. Yes, I at this point, yeah. I need to audition for most things. Unless it's specifically people who have relationships with me that want to work with me again, directors or whatever, that just reach out to me directly. Otherwise, yeah, for a project like this, I would imagine how the process would go. Like for Han Solo, as an example, how that was is they just said everybody send in a self-tape. Every actor between 25 and 35 in Hollywood, send us your self-tape. We're going to throw them all in the garbage, and we're going to narrow it down to the 10 people we wanted in the first place.
Even Elijah Wood did that to try to get the role of Frodo. Send in a bloody self-tape.
Yeah. So,
Everybody does that.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, no, I'm not of a caliber where I could get in touch with the showrunners or whoever it is I would need to get in touch with to be able to do something like this. And to be honest, for a show like this, I don't think that exists. I think they're going to have a very specific way of going about it, and I don't know how you're going to be able to infiltrate, no matter how big a fan or how much you want to be on the show or what your resume is. I don't know what their
Well, I know
process is going to be.
Amazon
Everybody
does
kind
seem
of does
to
it
pay
differently.
attention to the OneRing.net often enough, so maybe there's some influence within the
Oh, do they?
OneRing.net.
Well, I would, yes. Okay, let me do that manifest thing that I guess people do.
Yes, please.
It's all the rage these days.
Yes.
Yes, I would love to be on that show. I would love to be on that. I'll do whatever you need. I'm an equestrian. I can do that. All right.
I love it.
Perfect.
It's not easy getting involved in something where you have 75 pounds of chainmail on you, This is where, when the rubber hits the road and
Yeah.
you're in that kind of a franchise, it's not easy. As in, so not easy.
Yeah, and you know what? I was thinking about this the other day. I've been lucky enough to be in some really cool genre stuff over the years, but very rarely am I anything other than just a person, which I think is, I think it plays into, I don't know, because I feel like maybe I remind people of just kind of a, I don't
Wholesome,
know,
all-American
whatever,
guy.
everyman sort of deal.
That's
so
a great thing for an
which
actor
is
to be.
fantastic because you can drop me into any world and then I can react honestly the way a person would, and then people can go, hey, that's how I would react. And I sort of, I don't know, I guess there's some sort of quality in me that I can bring people along to go, what am I trying to say? Finish my sentence.
Well, I think you're trying to say that perhaps that having those kinds of difficulties, whether it's like working with a ton of makeup or a million pounds of whatever, it doesn't matter. You're so pleased to inhabit a character, and to be able to have an opportunity to do that work is a special place to be. I mean, like Kelly Marie Tran said in that beautiful editorial in the New York Times today, she said, I realize how lucky we are as actors to be able to choose stories that people will absorb and breathe and live and think about. And you have that advantage as an actor to be able to apply your skills to something that will help people transcend themselves or transcend their lives. Or, you could pick something else that is just, just like reality television where people do nothing but show their worst qualities or hurt each other. And so there's an empowerment already for an actor of your caliber with your 20 years experience bringing all these characters to life. And that's why I wanted to give you credit at the top of the show, because obviously you're already conscientious of this power. You do it every day.
Thank you again.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Even if it's
And you
just
know
being an
what?
actor.
No, and that's true because like good acting done correctly in the context of whatever story you're trying to tell can have a very powerful effect on the viewer. And it has to be done right. And as a fan too, I have this experience when you're really when you're watching a master, you feel like they're guiding you on a journey, and you're more willing to sort of be open and vulnerable to where that journey is going to take you if you feel like you're in good hands by the shepherds of the story, who are the actors. So I do think it's a great responsibility. That's why I take it very seriously.
Yeah, real.
But to go back a little bit into what you were saying, so the thing that appeals to me is, and listen, and I will do anything. I'm just happy to work. But like, I'll give you an example. When I saw the first episode of Walking Dead, and Rick woke up in the hospital, and he's just slowly, piece by piece, bit by bit, being introduced into this new paradigm, this new reality he's in. I thought to myself, that is the ultimate for me as an actor, to be able to like just drop me into a universe like that and allow me to experience it that way as realistically as possible. And he did such a great job because again, he brought you on that journey. It was a vicarious experience. We were experiencing it through him. And that's the power of good acting, is as an audience, you get to experience what they're experiencing within that context. So yeah, it's I love it. I'm still as passionate about it as I've ever been, and I just hope people keep letting me do it for a living.
Hell yeah.
Woohoo!
From your lips to God's ears. Can I get an amen up in here?
And Twilight, did the production hire fans of Trek and Twilight, or was the fan employee thing the fan?
Oh, that's interesting. Because yeah, for the Z Nation thing, I was saying that they hired fans to play the zombies by season 2. I didn't notice that for Trek and Twilight. I'm trying to think. I mean, Trek, I was 10 at the time, so I don't know that I had any cognizance of that.
The cast and the crew in New Zealand? Well, the crew, absolutely. The crew gathered themselves across the entire country of New Zealand. only because they were driven by their fandom.
Yeah.
To become, even to take questionable hours and questionable wages. They didn't care. They wanted to be part of this. And there was a national identity, therefore, that started to build behind the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which became a rather unique moment in time in terms of film history. That
Which
was
is
a rather
also why
unique
they
thing.
still kind of celebrate everything in New Zealand. The tours are still so popular. Like, even when they bring New Zealand Comic Con, when they bring actors out for New Zealand Comic Con, they build a package in where the Lord of the Rings tour is included in their package now. It's amazing.
I think as a writer often is very conscientious of that responsibility of what they are writing. Only the smart ones, perhaps I should say the more thoughtful people who have a conscience, who know the taste of their own soul, those are the writers who are much more diligent about the kinds of stories they write, whether it will uplift people or press them down, or remind them of something they should have forgotten. I mean, they should not have forgotten. Like George Orwell, who's been in constant conversation lately with truth is not the truth anymore. Well, 2 + 2 = 5. Now that we're living in a world of total Orwellian doublespeak now, it's almost insane how relevant this man's effort was, and all he wanted to do was caution people of his generation, look what's happening. And that's a terrific responsibility. When science fiction and fantasy writers do it, they have an even harder job. They have to guss it all up in this secondary world of fun, peril,
but I
and
also
mayhem.
think that
and it still has to have the messages in there. It's amazing what they do.
I think it's almost easier to just create that fantasy world as somebody that's spent a lot of my life writing, to just take something that doesn't exist and be able to construct it into anything you want, though. That's super fun.
Yeah.
Does the actors notice the production crew that are fans versus the crew that are just got a job?
It depends. He's asking, do the actors notice crew and production who are fans versus the ones that just got a job?
I feel like, Justin, you're trying to get to have you had a fangirl moment on set? Has somebody flipped out on set? Is this where you're going?
That is where he's leading up to, yeah. So how many fan crew people came up to you and were like, oh my God, I loved you and blah, blah, blah?
Honestly, the most that ever happened to me was in Z Nation. I mean, that was because, again, a lot of we shot that in Spokane, Washington, and a lot of people hired were just local folks, you know. So we had a lot of that for Twilight. Honestly, man, they they kept everybody very separate.
Where did you film all of your parts of Twilight? Because I know they did a lot of shooting in Louisiana. Did they do everything there, or were you guys?
The only part I recall for me in Baton Rouge was it was part of Bella's, some sort of nightmare sequence where there's like a wedding cake of just dead bodies, and I was just within that cake.
Okay.
That's all. I was there for a week for that one shot.
So everything else they did in a studio back in LA, or what?
Oh no! I mean, they did a lot there. I think they shot the whole end of the last
just for your
movie
scenes.
there. Just for my scenes, I was in. For the first film, it was Portland and Washington.
Okay.
Second film, the rest of them were mostly in Vancouver, and that general.
So a lot of your roles have ended up putting you in the northwest corner.
For the most part. But I didn't. So I didn't go to Italy. I didn't go to Brazil.
Oh no!
I know.
Where did they film the wedding?
The wedding. Well, it wasn't it was just the one shot of the wedding, the wedding cake of dead bodies
that you were in.
And I was in that. The wedding was in Canada, and we had one day a paparazzi helicopter who was circling us, and there were about, I'm going to say 12 umbrellas over Kristen so that they wouldn't see the wedding dress.
Oh, wow.
And they just circled for it felt like hours until they ran out of gas, I guess. And then they left and we were able to keep shooting. But yeah, that's how crazy that
wow.
That's crazy.
It was
Wow.
So
like that
as she
constantly.
moved, these 12 people with umbrellas were going with her?
Yeah.
That's fun. Yeah.
Okay.
Good day on set. I do want to say, before you read that question, there's something before we run out of time, I won't be here next week. There will be a different co-host. But next Tuesday, the 28th, is Billy Boyd's birthday. And Billy Boyd is my favorite person in this world. And I just want to say happy early birthday to Billy already.
Billy Boyd is one of our favorite people.
One of my favorite hobbits is as well. I love Pippin.
Peregrine Took.
Yes.
Yes. throw yourself in next time.
So the question for Michael that came in.
Oh yeah, this question from Michael is from Catherine, and she says, is it harder or is it different as an actor being in a crazy science fiction or fantasy world compared to being in a normal setting of the real world? Or do you approach the acting the same way?
That's interesting. I mean, I guess there are subtle differences when you're talking about different genres, but for the most part, my process doesn't really change, man. I mean, it's just about, okay, how do I serve this piece? Like, why am I here? How do through the context of this character, how do I best tell this story? And then everything kind of branches out from there. So it always starts from the same place, and then and then it depends on a lot of factors. I mean, what kind of role is it? What kind of film is it? What is the desired effect that you want this character to have? And so, I mean, it's a never-ending list of questions. But no, is there like a stark inherent difference in terms of approach when you're talking about, I don't know, a guest spot on CSI New York or on Star Trek Enterprise? I don't know. Not inherently, no.
Well, technical, like maybe a rather granular acting professional question. Meisner technique, something I'm familiar with. You may be certainly as well.
Sure.
I took a lot of classes in Chicago learning the Meisner technique based on pulling your own real feelings out of your own past to find intention and emotional drive for the character.
Yeah.
But being an alien who's maybe in some other world, or you might be in some bizarre context, or a different species that might not even have any relatable human, that's always harder.
Yeah.
To put yourself into something phantasmagorical and yet try to be deeply human with what motivates you as a character. I find it amazing when Doug Jones puts on all his makeup. Yeah, exactly. He is our modern day, Lon Chaney.
Yeah.
He can transform without any digital anything, and he becomes a whole different person. He has no dialogue in the shape of water.
Not one word.
And yet one of the reasons why we understand her relationship with him is because of the way Doug Jones brings that performance.
Yeah.
Wordlessly.
And I just work with a guy, Doug Tate, who's one of those. There's like 5 of those guys who do that.
I know Doug Tate.
Several of them
He
are
did The
Doug.
Quest on ABC with
Yeah.
our friend Bonnie. I know Doug
Okay.
Tate. I know him and his wife. They're lovely people. They're lovely people.
So
Lovely.
he played a monster in a movie that
Yeah.
I was recently in, and
Yeah.
man,
He's cool.
that's a very specific skill set. But again, I have to imagine it goes back to finding that human connection point.
Yep.
Whether it's like if you're playing a monster, what is that? A need to control, a need to dominate. Like there's got to be some connection point. I have to control people, and then you can play a monster. That's why it's a craft. That's why people work a lifetime to try to figure out how to do it. But I don't know. It's got to start from that place. I feel like. I don't know.
Indeed. I have a connected thought. Would you be down to do some of that motion capture stuff that we see Andy Serkis and Terry Notary doing so brilliantly in the Apes films? I mean, have you done that kind of mocap stuff?
No, it's funny, and I've auditioned for a couple of video games, mocap video games, and I wasn't very good at it because it was just like, do some general. That you go into the room and they go, do some general military gestures. So you're sitting there going, stop this way. What's going on back there? So I don't think I've made a very good impression amongst the mocap casting
It's
universe.
an entirely different thing to get used to as well. I was like, but it'll come.
Yeah, no, it would be fantastic. And listen, that is where that's probably going to start happening more and more. So at some point, they're going to have to expand the universe and not just hire the same, 3 people over
At
and
some
over.
point, those 3 people won't exist anymore as well.
Well, at some
they'll
point,
have to.
yeah.
Another actor's question.
Sure.
Related to the Academy, don't you think that there's a lot of push amongst people that they would expand a category for stunt performers and expand another performance category for motion capture, which includes a lot of actors like Mr. Serkis, who the Academy has been ignoring for a very long time.
Yeah.
Especially what he did with Caesar in the Apes films.
I know.
Would you be down for some expansion into acting categories that would include how hard the stunt workers do their job?
Yeah, I mean, because the truth is, gosh, comedy is not treated with the proper respect in terms
Thank you.
of craft.
Yep.
You know, there are a lot of areas. I mean, I wish we could just the same. Well, that's interesting. I don't know the answer here. I feel like it's hard to compare apples. I mean, I think that first year that there were 10 films nominated for Best Picture, you know, one of them was Up, and then another one. Like, I don't know how you compare art. You know,
District 9.
Yeah. I mean, come on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's great. So. Sure, why not? I mean, I'm not looking for a 6-hour broadcast, but yeah, let's give the people who do that kind of work the respect that they deserve. And if that, you know, which can happen one of two ways: either expand your imagination and consider someone like Andy Serkis for the brilliant work that he does, or expand it. But yeah, to just continue like this and not recognize these people doing such brilliant work, I think is an injustice. I mean, within within the context of this very silly world that we're talking about.
I know that's true, but you know, but I'm always fascinated by Oscars screwing things up. That's just one of my. I have an endless nerd fascination with Disney and with Miyazaki, and sometimes I have a nerd film history fascination, just with the fact that. We talk about Fred Astaire, one of the greatest legends of film history. They never gave him an Oscar until The Towering Inferno, which is a movie he didn't even dance in. He was too old. He played the side character, and he loses his wife. It's a very memorable role, and he gets a Best Supporting Actor nomination at that point in his life.
Like musicals in general barely ever got any recognition until like Chicago and then La La Land more recently and stuff like that. I was like, but Gene Kelly was incredible back in the day, and he didn't just sing and dance; he directed. And a lot of people don't even know that about Gene Kelly.
Yeah. I know. See, here we go. We could talk the next few hours about how many times the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences screwed things up, except that time when Peter Jackson and his folks got 11 out of 11 Oscars for The Return of the King.
That night, I was in Chicago.
That was good.
I was seeing
a good night.
I was seeing a band called Elephant at Double Door in Chicago, and I had a friend.
I love Elephant.
With an F.
Diego Garcia?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Nerds.
So I was seeing Elephant. I had a friend at home watching the Oscars, texting me every time Lord of the Rings won something. And I was disturbing the set because I was in the front row being like, yes, just out of nowhere. Just like it was a good night. It was a really good night.
It was a great night. Sorry. We had to do that. Wait a minute. We still have a show to finish.
Yes, we do.
What? It's only 6. Is it really 6:30?
Yeah, it's just about. Yeah,
Are you
5
looking
minutes.
Are you looking at the time? We've got 5 minutes.
Wow.
I can't believe.
So we should do all of the wrap-up things that we normally do.
This is called house cleaning.
Yes. First of all, I definitely want to mention the upcoming OneRing.net events that are happening in late September. Because if you are in the LA or Southern California area, or if you feel like traveling, we've got a huge celebration for Bilbo's birthday and Frodo's birthday on September 22nd. It's our annual gathering at Griffith Park. Yep. And it's 2 days before my birthday, which is another reason why I'm a Hobbit, because I share a birthday with the Bagginses.
That's right. It's the same day as Sala Baker's birthday, who played the Dark Lord Sauron himself. Yes, it is a huge annual event. It is wildly successful. It is attended by lots and lots and lots of people.
And it's so much fun, and there's so much food.
It's free. It's a public picnic at a public park in Griffith Park. I was going to invite you before the show was over. Would you bring that beautiful bumble of joy that you have and your family, your lovely wife, and come to our big family potluck picnic?
Yeah, it sounds
for Bilbo's
awesome.
birthday.
I'll be there.
Okay, it's September 22nd.
Okay.
September 22nd. If you're not busy, we're going to be doing that. I'm glad you mentioned that.
And then 2 days after that, continuing the celebration, which on September 24th, which is actually my birthday, right here at Scum and Villainy, we're doing a Lord of the Rings themed game night.
Can I bring the Reiner Knizia board game?
Bring every Lord of the Rings and Hobbit game you have.
I'll bring my vintage Milton Bradley board game from 1978, 79 that has the Ralph Bakshi designs.
Yep.
It's as long as nobody, puts their greasy paws on it.
We'll bring out some like Lord of the Rings trivia, maybe host some prizes for trivia. There's a bunch of raffle prizes.
Down for that.
We got a poster portfolio collection from Inside Editions that we're giving away. All sorts of fun stuff.
Super good.
It's also free. And it's right here at Scum and Villainy, so you can see where we live stream all the time.
I'm enjoying this very much. The energy of the Tolkien fans, the energy of our fan base has gone crazy. And of course, Star Trek fans, as you know, Michael, were really invigorated by CBS launching Discovery,
Yes.
starring Doug Jones.
Which I've
like one
heard
of my
so many great things about. I still haven't seen it, but everybody's been raving. Even
Yeah.
I know Bernie, that was just in here a second ago, I think he might have already left, was recently posting on Facebook raving that he's been catching up on the series.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is really cool. Like, the time to be a Trek fan, the time to be a Ringer fan is definitely right now. And
Which speaking of themed game nights,
So
we have our
excited.
Star Trek themed game night right here this coming Monday.
Really?
So-
Oh, cool. Really? A Trek-themed game night
Yep,
next
Star
Monday?
Trek this Monday, August 27th.
Okay, that is going to be so cool. I was here last night. It was anime-themed game night. It was very, very fun. Before we go, we're going to say, where do we find you?
Well, let's start with Michael.
Well, yeah, well, I
All
want
of
to
his
have him
things.
have the last word.
Oh, okay.
I will let
he
him
can
have the last word.
Fine. Well, you can find me anywhere on the internet at UncoolRockstar. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, whatever you have. I don't have Snapchat. I don't get it. I don't want it. But Uncool Rockstar. You can follow my publication, High Voltage Magazine. High Voltage is the one that produces the game nights on Monday nights here as well. So if you're interested in ever doing a game night in Los Angeles at Scum and Villainy, you can
Come and
check
do it
that
here.
out. If it's Twitter, it's at High Voltage Mag. Everywhere else, it's High Voltage Magazine. If you want to be a Disney nerd with me, I'm at Disney Observer on Instagram. All the things.
For all the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit and Silmarillion fans, if you are indeed as much involved in the world of J.R.R. Tolkien as we are, then come and join us. Click follow, click like. We love you. TheOneRing.net. Because in the 90s, that was a thing, I guess. We call ourselves Torn. TheOneRing.net. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Periscope, YouTube.
All the things. All of the
everything
things.
except Snap, and of course.
Maybe MySpace still?
And you can and you can follow us on your mama and your daddy and your no panty granny. My name is Clifford Broadway. I'm
It
your
comes in
co-host.
threes.
It is lovely to be with you. You can find me as QuickBeam2000 on all those platforms, especially Twitter. But Mr. Michael Welch,
Yes.
there's mischief that we must manage before we close the show.
Okay.
Where do people find you?
Oh, well, you can find me on MySpace and Friendster.
Oh yeah,
No,
buddy.
just kidding.
You can find me on the IRC chat board.
Yes,
You can find me on AOL
CompuServe.
chat.
CompuServe, baby. Excellent. I love it.
Man, you know, when I was 13 and the internet was just kind of starting, I used to go into AOL chat rooms and just troll people before I knew that's like a bad thing to do. Now as an
You've
adult.
got mail.
You know how people are getting in trouble now for like old tweets? Man, if they ever find some of those old AOL chats from a 13-year-old.
Oh, they
Michael
were pretty
Welch.
blue, huh? Oh my gosh, you're
Anyway. So I'm on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. Those are the three that I do.
Yeah.
Michael Welch ACT, A-C-T, because I'm an actor and not particularly creative apparently. And yeah, I mean,
Oh my God,
you can
you're
get all the info on there. I have the website michaelwelchact.com, and you know, I guess that's everything.
And then watch
My
Michael.
email is no, I'm just kidding.
And then you want to watch Michael September 1st on Lifetime.
Hi, there's the poster.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you guys. Hey, real quick.
Yes.
So I don't know if I'm supposed to tell stuff like this, but I think it's interesting.
Yes.
So I had an audition for Star Trek Discovery recently, and it's so secretive the way they do it. First of all, they send it to you in an email, and it's not the name. It's just like something else, and your agent has to call you later and go, by the way, it's Star Trek.
Yeah.
And then you get a separate email with instructions of how to access the sides. And then once you get the sides, they like self-destruct in 10 seconds kind
That's
of thing.
amazing.
So you have to memorize it. You're not allowed to print them. You're not allowed to take screenshots. Like, it's so crazy. And
Wow,
I messed
that's
up
cool. That's
'cause
really cool.
It's very like, you know, how you would think Star Trek would be.
Wow.
And I screwed up, and I have an old desktop, and I couldn't like update Chrome, so I couldn't get the proper software to be able to download the sides and do the thing. And you only have one shot to do it
Oh my
once you
God.
try to access it. So then I couldn't do it again. So then I had to like call the casting director and bug her, and it took me like 3 days to figure out how to get the material for this
Wow.
thing.
But you
Anyway,
got it.
I got it. I went in, didn't get it, but hopefully next time They're probably just like,
There's
this
a
guy's
role
too much of a
coming
pain in
for
the
you.
ass. I'm not gonna. We're not gonna send him
Oh
any
no,
more
Michael,
stuff.
that would be so cool.
That'd be amazing. I would
Many
love that.
actors from Trek have resurfaced in later series as other characters.
Oh, cool.
Like
Okay.
Michael Clark Duncan as an interesting example. You know, he showed up years later as in Voyager as one of the lead members of the ensemble, even though he had been on Next Generation as some other character.
Yeah.
Very different. It happens all the time.
There you go.
You know what? I'm so down for having you here. Anytime you want, brother, you're
Great.
welcome here in our home to talk about
Absolutely.
all these cool nerd things. And fantasy and science fiction is very energized, and it's a good
Yeah.
place to be. Despite some of the weird toxicity that has gotten a lot of headlines, we have found ourselves really lucky in our community. Our community has
Yes.
been so kind to one another. It's been really rather good. So cheers to that. Cheers to you, sir.
I agree completely. I love this community, and I would love to come back. Maybe out of respect for the fan base here, I'll do a little reading. I'll go watch the movies again and come back and
Yes,
actually have
do
something
it.
to say about it. This was a lot of fun for me. This just flew by. I don't know if it was interesting or anything, but I enjoyed
They
it.
seem to enjoy it. They've
Oh,
been
hell
lively.
yeah. Everyone's having a great time.
Great.
Yeah, it's been great. Now look at this wide shot we have of Scum and Villainy Cantina.
And you can see it starting to fill up as well with people awaiting Kevin Smith's arrival.
Hey guys.
Oh, that's right. Now there's a beautiful live audience. Hey, I want to hear a big round of applause from my audience here. Say hi, everybody. There they are. They're all.
How long have
Thank
you guys been
guys.
here?
You guys are awesome. They're all lining up here and getting into formation, Queen Bey. Getting into formation for Kevin Smith's big show, Fat Man on Batman. Even though he's now a spokesperson for Weight Watchers, and he might not need to use that name anymore. Maybe in the end, it might
He'll
be
always be Fat Man.
an
on Batman.
oxymoron that we can live with. Maybe.
But I'm
Okay.
happy that he's getting healthier ever since all of the stuff this year.
Yes, Chelsea, you are beautiful. Thank you for being with me. Thank you very much.
Great to be
and
here
Mr.
again, as
Michael
always.
Welch, you are
Pleasure, man.
You're a gentleman and a scholar. It's great to have you here, brother. Really good. This has been the OneRing.net, and I'm Clifford Broadway saying good night and good luck. Buenos noches y buena suerte.
Shalom.
Woohoo!